They refused to let her fly the Griffin HX-9 until a general walked in and saluted her. The engine's roar and the graceful way the aircraft cut through the clouds made her heart race with excitement. While other children played with dolls or toys, Emily spent hours drawing airplanes, reading books about famous pilots, and imagining herself in the cockpit, navigating through the endless blue. Her fascination was not just with flying itself, but with the freedom and power it represented. She loved the idea that a skilled pilot could rise above the earth and see the world from a perspective few people ever experienced. As she grew older, Emily's passion turned into determination. She joined every local aviation program, attended workshops, and worked tirelessly to earn the skills she needed. By the time she was in college, she was already an accomplished pilot, with dozens of flight hours logged. She excelled in simulators and real flights alike, always pushing herself to go further to learn more and to perfect her abilities. Her instructors were impressed by her focus, discipline, and natural talent. They often remarked that Emily had the instinct of a fighter pilot and predicted she would achieve great things. Despite her achievements, Emily was fully aware that her path would not be easy. She was entering a world traditionally dominated by men, a world where biases and outdated rules still lingered. She had seen other women struggle to gain recognition for their skills, even when they were equally or more competent than their male counterparts. Emily refused to be discouraged. She believed that hard work, determination, and undeniable talent would eventually break through any barrier. Her ultimate goal was the Griffin HX-9, the most advanced fighter jet in the fleet. Known for its speed, agility, and cutting-edge technology, the HX-9 was reserved for only the most elite pilots. It was a symbol of prestige and power. To fly, it required not only technical skill, but courage, precision, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. Emily had studied everything about the jet, the mechanics, the control systems, and even the subtle ways it responded to a pilot's commands. She had spent months in simulators replicating every possible scenario, mastering emergency procedures, dogfights, and high-speed maneuvers. Every day she came closer to proving she was ready. Then came the day she received the official announcement. The opportunity to be considered for the HX-9 program was finally within reach. Emily's heart raced as she read the instructions. She had prepared for this moment her entire life. With her portfolio of flight hours, her simulator scores, and her instructors' glowing recommendations, she was confident. This was her chance to show the world what she could do, but reality hit her hard. When she submitted her application, she was met with skepticism. "We appreciate your enthusiasm," one officer said politely, "but the HX-9 is not assigned lightly. We have strict protocols." Emily's heart sank, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had anticipated resistance and had prepared arguments to prove her worth. She explained her experience, her training, and her accomplishments. Still, the response was the same. "We're not ready to approve your application at this time." The rejection was a bitter pill to swallow. Emily had worked tirelessly, sacrificing social life, weekends, and countless hours of sleep to reach this point. She had faced criticism, doubts, and subtle discouragement from those around her, but she had never let it stop her. Now, standing at the edge of her dream, she felt a mix of frustration and determination. She refused to let this rejection define her. Emily spent the next few days reflecting on her path. She knew that this was not a reflection of her abilities. Her skills had been tested and proven. She had aced every simulator test, navigated complex flight scenarios flawlessly, and demonstrated exceptional decision-making under pressure. The problem was not her. The problem was the rigid system that was slow to recognize talent when it did not fit the usual mold. Instead of giving up, Emily used the setback as motivation. She started training even harder. Every morning, she would wake before dawn, run drills to improve her stamina, and study flight manuals to deepen her technical knowledge. She spent hours in the simulator, replicating maneuvers specific to the HX-9, pushing herself to handle extreme conditions and unexpected emergencies. She wanted to leave no doubt in anyone's mind that she was ready. Her friends and a few supportive colleagues noticed the change in her. They admired her determination and courage, knowing that the odds were stacked against her. Some quietly offered advice or encouragement, while others watched in awe as Emily refused to let the obstacles deter her. She became a figure of inspiration within her circle, showing that skill, persistence, and confidence could challenge even the most entrenched barriers. Yet the obstacles persisted. Every time she approached the committee responsible for assigning pilots to the HX-9, she was met with excuses and delays. "We need more data," they said. "We need more evaluations." It was clear that no matter how well she performed, the decision-makers were hesitant. Emily felt a mixture of anger and resolve. She realized that to achieve her goal, she would need to not just prove her skill but also force recognition of her worth in a system resistant to change. Despite the frustration, Emily remained composed. She understood that showing anger or desperation could harm her case. Instead, she focused on demonstrating excellence quietly and consistently. Every successful flight, every perfect simulator run, and every technical report she submitted was a testament to her dedication and competence. She knew that eventually, someone with the authority to make a difference would notice. As weeks passed, Emily's determination grew stronger. She could almost feel the HX-9 waiting for her, a prize for her persistence. The jet had become more than just a machine to her. It was a symbol of everything she had worked for: skill, courage, and the refusal to accept limits imposed by others. Each morning, she would walk past the hangars, her eyes lingering on the sleek lines of the HX-9, imagining herself in the cockpit. She could hear the roar of the engine in her mind, feel the vibration beneath her hands, and taste the adrenaline of high-speed maneuvers. Her colleagues began to notice the fire in her eyes. Some offered quiet words of encouragement, while others watched in respectful silence. Emily's journey was no longer just about her own dream. It had become a story of perseverance that inspired others. Young pilots, especially women, started to see her as proof that determination and skill could overcome bias and obstacles. Emily also faced moments of doubt. Late at night, lying awake, she questioned whether her efforts were enough. She thought about the long hours, the missed social gatherings, and the sacrifices she had made. Yet, every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself why she had started this journey. Flying was not just a dream, it was her calling. The sky was where she felt alive, and nothing could replace that feeling. One day, after another round of official delays, Emily received yet another rejection letter. Her heart sank, but she refused to give up. She knew that talent, preparation, and patience would eventually prevail. She reminded herself that the greatest pilots were tested not just in the air, but in their ability to endure and overcome obstacles on the ground. As she walked past the hangar once again, staring at the HX-9, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just about getting approval. It was about proving that skill and determination could break through barriers. Emily clenched her fists, took a deep breath, and promised herself that she would not leave the hangar until she was sitting in the cockpit, ready to take flight. The story of Emily Carter in these early days was one of quiet rebellion, determination, and unwavering faith in her own abilities. Every obstacle, every doubt, and every rejection only strengthened her resolve. She was no longer just a pilot chasing a dream. She had become a symbol of courage and persistence, standing at the edge of possibility, waiting for the moment when her skill would be recognized and her dream would finally take flight. By the end of this part, the audience should feel Emily's passion, understand the challenges she faces, and be emotionally invested in her journey. They are ready to cheer for her when the breakthrough finally comes, knowing how hard she has worked and how much she deserves the opportunity to fly the HX-9. Emily Carter refused to let the rejection stop her. Even though the committee had refused to let her fly the Griffin HX-9, she knew deep down that she was ready. Her skills, her determination, and her hours of practice could not be denied. She understood that this was not about her ability. It was about breaking through a system that was slow to recognize talent when it came from someone they least expected. Every morning, she woke up with a renewed sense of purpose, determined to make herself impossible to ignore. She started her days earlier than most pilots. Before the sun rose, Emily was already running drills to strengthen her reflexes and endurance. Flying a fighter jet like the HX-9 demanded not only skill but physical fitness, stamina, and the ability to react instantly in critical situations. She knew that if she could impress them with her consistency and commitment, the doubters would have no choice but to acknowledge her capabilities. Every drop of sweat, Every aching muscle and every early morning run was a step closer to her goal. After her physical training, Emily spent hours in the simulator. The HX-9 simulator was state-of-the-art, capable of replicating the most extreme conditions a pilot could face. Turbulence, system failures, high-speed maneuvers, and complex combat scenarios all could be practiced without leaving the ground. Emily pushed herself to the limit. She practiced emergency landings in severe weather, learned to respond to engine malfunctions, and honed her ability to make split-second decisions. Even minor mistakes were analyzed and corrected meticulously. She knew that every perfect simulation was another argument in favor of her being chosen to fly the real jet. Her determination was visible to her close colleagues. A few of them quietly supported her, offering advice, encouragement, or simply a listening ear after long days of practice. Some admired her courage but were too afraid to speak up in a system that valued tradition over talent. Emily noticed their quiet support, and it gave her strength. She realized that she was not alone and that her journey could inspire others as well. Knowing this added a sense of responsibility to her work. She was no longer just fighting for herself, but also for those who might face similar barriers in the future. Despite her relentless training, Emily still faced resistance from the higher ranks. Every time she approached the committee responsible for assigning pilots to the HX-9, she was met with skepticism. "We need more data," they said. "We need more evaluations." Sometimes she could feel the subtle judgment in their eyes, a quiet doubt about her ability solely because she was a woman in a male-dominated field. It was frustrating, but Emily refused to let it discourage her. She understood that true perseverance often required patience, and she was willing to wait as long as it took to prove herself. Emily began documenting her progress meticulously. She kept detailed records of her simulator scores, her flight maneuvers, and her emergency response drills. She created charts and logs that highlighted her improvements and her ability to handle increasingly difficult scenarios. Every time she added a new achievement, she felt a small surge of satisfaction. This was her evidence, her proof that she was not only capable but exceptional. She knew that eventually, someone with authority would notice her efforts and see the truth that had been so obvious to those who trained with her every day. One particularly challenging day, Emily faced a simulation designed to test a pilot's ability to handle multiple crises at once. The scenario involved sudden engine failure, unexpected weather changes, and a system malfunction simultaneously. Many experienced pilots had failed this simulation, but Emily approached it with calm focus. She methodically worked through each problem, keeping her cool under pressure. The simulator responded precisely as the HX-9 would in real life, and Emily's skill shone through. When she completed the simulation successfully, her colleagues who observed the session were stunned. Even those who had doubted her abilities could not deny what they had seen. Yet even with such clear evidence of her talent, the official response remained the same: delays, excuses, and polite but firm refusals. Emily could have become bitter or disheartened, but she refused. She realized that this challenge was about more than flying a jet. It was about proving that ability and determination mattered more than tradition and prejudice. She reminded herself daily that the greatest pilots were not only skilled in the air, but also capable of navigating the obstacles on the ground. During this period, Emily also began mentoring younger pilots in the base. She shared her knowledge, techniques, and experiences with them, teaching them the importance of discipline, preparation, and confidence. Many of these young pilots looked up to her, inspired by her dedication and her refusal to accept the limits others tried to impose. This mentorship added another layer to Emily's journey. She realized that her fight was bigger than herself. It was about setting an example and creating opportunities for those who would come after her. There were moments when Emily felt exhausted and questioned whether her efforts would ever be recognized. Late nights spent in the simulator, early mornings running drills, and countless hours analyzing data could weigh heavily on anyone. She sometimes wondered if she would ever get the chance to sit in the cockpit of the HX-9 to finally feel the adrenaline rush she had imagined since childhood. But every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself of her purpose. She was not just chasing a dream. She was proving that talent and determination could overcome bias and obstacles. One day, After a particularly grueling week of training, Emily received a small note from one of her supportive colleagues. It was simple, just a few words. "You are ready, don't give up." Those words hit her deeply. They reminded her that she was not invisible, that her hard work had been noticed by those who truly understood skill and commitment. The note strengthened her resolve, giving her the courage to continue pushing forward even when it felt like the world was against her. Emily's routine became a blend of rigorous training and quiet persistence. She studied flight manuals, analyzed past missions, and even researched the histories of pilots who had flown the HX-9 before her. She learned from their successes and mistakes, applying those lessons to her own practice. Every detail mattered, from the way she handled the controls to how she assessed risk in split-second decisions. Her preparation was thorough, leaving no room for error. Throughout this time, the tension at the base began to shift subtly. While some officers continued to resist change, others started to notice Emily's skill and consistency. Whispers of admiration circulated quietly among the ranks. Her performances in the simulator were becoming impossible to ignore. Even those who were skeptical found themselves impressed by her composure, her precision, and her unwavering dedication. Slowly, Emily's reputation began to grow, not through words or complaints, but through action and undeniable results. Despite the growing recognition, Emily knew she could not rely solely on others to validate her efforts. She focused on what she could control: her training, her preparation, and her determination. She visualized herself in the cockpit, executing maneuvers flawlessly, feeling the rush of speed, and hearing the roar of the engine. This mental rehearsal was as important as physical practice. It kept her motivated, sharp, and ready for the moment when opportunity finally arrived. Emily's perseverance was not without its challenges. There were days when equipment malfunctioned, when simulations failed, or when she simply felt exhausted and overwhelmed. But she learned to use these setbacks as lessons rather than obstacles. Each failure taught her something new, honed her instincts, and strengthened her resolve. By the time the next evaluation came, she was better prepared than ever, ready to demonstrate her skill with precision and confidence. As weeks turned into months, Emily's journey became a story of resilience and determination. Every training session, every simulation, and every small victory was a step toward her ultimate goal: flying the Griffin HX-9. Her persistence, courage, and unwavering belief in herself were building momentum. She had transformed setbacks into motivation, doubt into determination, and challenges into opportunities for growth. By the end of this part of her story, Emily had not yet flown the HX-9, but she had proven something far more important. She had proven to herself and to those who watched that she was ready. She was prepared, skilled, and unwavering in her commitment. The stage was being set for a moment that would not only change her life, but inspire countless others who dreamed of breaking barriers and achieving greatness. The anticipation for that breakthrough was growing, and the audience could feel it, eagerly waiting for the moment when Emily's perseverance would finally be recognized and rewarded. Emily Carter had spent months proving herself, working tirelessly day and night to demonstrate her skill and dedication. Yet despite her flawless simulator performances, rigorous training, and unwavering determination, the final approval to fly the Griffin HX-9 still had not come. The system remained stubborn, with rules and traditions standing in her way. Many of her colleagues were starting to lose hope, quietly accepting that the jet might remain out of reach. But Emily refused to give in. She believed that if she remained patient, disciplined, and persistent, the right opportunity would come. One crisp morning, the air at the base seemed charged with anticipation. Rumors had been circulating that a high-ranking general was scheduled to visit the base to inspect the fleet and meet the pilots. Emily sensed that this could be the moment she had been waiting for. She meticulously reviewed all her training logs, polished her reports, and made sure her simulator scores and evaluations were up to date. She knew that first impressions mattered, especially with someone of such authority. As the general arrived, the base was buzzing with activity. Officers hurried to prepare the hangars, pilots stood at attention, and every detail was scrutinized to perfection. Emily, dressed in her uniform, felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. She reminded herself to remain calm, professional, and confident. This was her chance to finally have her abilities recognized, and she was determined to make it count. The general's inspection began with the main hangar, where the fleet of jets gleamed under the sunlight. Officers accompanied him, explaining technical details and answering questions. Emily waited patiently, observing quietly from a distance. She noticed how the general moved with purpose, examining every detail, listening carefully, and acknowledging the efforts of the pilots. There was a sense of authority in his presence, a calm confidence that made everyone in the hangar stand a little taller. Emily knew that approaching him directly might be difficult. Officers guarding protocol were cautious and strict, and they had little patience for any perceived disruption. But Emily had prepared herself for this moment. With careful timing, she stepped forward, holding her training logs and simulator evaluations. Her heart raced, but her voice remained steady as she respectfully addressed one of the officers. "Sir, may I present my performance records and request consideration for flying the Griffin HX-9? The officer hesitated, glancing toward the general. Emily could see doubt in their eyes, a mixture of surprise and skepticism. But before they could respond, the general turned his attention toward her. He noticed her standing there, composed, professional, and clearly prepared. There was a pause, a moment of recognition in his gaze, as if he understood her determination immediately. Without a word, he gestured for her to approach. Emily felt a surge of hope and adrenaline. She stepped forward, keeping her composure, and presented her training records. The general examined them carefully, his eyes scanning her simulator scores, her flight logs, and the detailed notes she had prepared. Emily explained her training, her simulations, and the steps she had taken to ensure she was ready for the HX-9. She spoke with confidence, not arrogance, letting her actions and preparation speak for themselves. The general nodded thoughtfully. He asked a few questions, probing her understanding of the jet systems, her ability to handle emergencies, and her decision-making in high-pressure situations. Emily answered each question with clarity and precision, drawing from months of preparation. She explained how she had trained for extreme scenarios, practiced complex maneuvers, and consistently performed at the highest level in simulations. Her explanations were thorough, detailed, and confident, leaving little room for doubt. The officers who had previously resisted her now watched in silence. Some seemed unsure how to respond, while others could not hide their admiration. Emily's preparation, discipline, and persistence were undeniable. The general, after a few more questions, stood quietly for a moment, observing her. Then, in a gesture that would forever change her life, he saluted her. The salute was not just a formal gesture. It was recognition, validation, and respect for the dedication, skill, and courage Emily had demonstrated. The room seemed to hold its breath. Emily returned the salute, her heart swelling with pride and relief. All the months of hard work, all the sacrifices, and all the moments of doubt had led to this point. The general's recognition was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. With the general's endorsement, the resistance of the committee quickly faded. Orders were issued, approvals were signed, and the path to the HX-9 was finally cleared. Emily felt a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. She had not only achieved her dream, but had also proven that talent and perseverance could overcome entrenched biases and outdated rules. The officers who had doubted her now approached with respect, acknowledging her skill and determination in hushed conversations. Emily's colleagues celebrated her achievement quietly but enthusiastically. Many were inspired by her journey, realizing that persistence and preparation could open doors that seemed permanently closed. The story of Emily Carter became a symbol of determination and courage, showing that barriers could be broken and that dreams were achievable with unwavering commitment. The day Emily prepared for her first flight in the HX-9, the hangar was filled with anticipation. Pilots and officers watched as she climbed into the cockpit, her movements confident and precise. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar excitement and nervousness that always accompanied the moment before takeoff. But unlike before, this time she had earned every second, every minute of preparation, and every bit of recognition. As the engines roared to life, Emily felt the power of the jet beneath her. The HX-9 responded to her commands flawlessly, and for a moment she felt a surge of triumph and freedom. Months of preparation, rejection, and relentless determination had led to this very moment. She lifted off the runway, rising into the sky with grace and confidence. The hangar, the base, and the world below seemed distant as she soared higher, feeling the thrill of flight in its purest form. During her flight, Emily executed maneuvers she had practiced countless times in simulations. Each twist, turn, and dive was performed with precision and control. She navigated through clouds, adjusted for wind shifts, and handled sudden simulated emergencies with calm expertise. The jet was no longer a symbol of unattainable prestige. It had become an extension of her skill, courage, and determination. Every movement reflected the months of preparation and the relentless pursuit of her dream. By the time Emily landed, she was met with applause, nods of respect, and congratulatory remarks. The general himself approached, smiling and acknowledging her performance. It was more than just a successful flight. It was a recognition of her journey, her courage, and her unwavering dedication. Emily felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond personal achievement. She had proven not only to herself, but to everyone watching that determination, preparation, and skill could overcome obstacles, challenge tradition, and redefine expectations. The impact of Emily's breakthrough extended beyond the immediate circle of pilots and officers. Her story quickly spread through the base, inspiring other young pilots, especially women, to pursue their goals with courage and determination. Emily became a symbol of perseverance, a living example that barriers could be challenged and that talent should always be recognized, regardless of outdated biases. As Emily reflected on the events of the day, she realized that the journey had been as important as the destination. Every rejection, every hour of training, every moment of doubt had shaped her into the pilot she had become. The recognition by the general was a milestone, but the true victory lay in her ability to stay focused, disciplined, and confident, even in the face of adversity. By the end of this part of her story, the audience should feel the intensity of the turning point. They should sense the anticipation, the tension, and the ultimate triumph as Emily finally receives the recognition she deserves. The stage is set for the final part, where Emily's journey reaches its peak, and her success becomes a source of inspiration for countless others. Emily Carter could hardly believe that the moment she had been waiting for her entire life had finally arrived. After months of relentless training, countless hours in simulators, and facing repeated rejection, she was finally going to fly the Griffin HX-9. The jet, sleek and powerful, gleamed under the morning sun, its engines humming softly in anticipation. Emily felt a mixture of nerves, excitement, and pride as she approached the cockpit. She knew that this flight would not only be a personal triumph, but also a moment that could inspire countless others who had been waiting for their own opportunities. She carefully climbed into the cockpit, taking a moment to adjust the controls and familiarize herself with the instrument panel. Everything was exactly as she had imagined and practiced, yet the reality of being in the actual HX-9 made her heart race. This was the culmination of years of dedication, sacrifice, and perseverance. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, visualizing the maneuvers she would perform, the takeoff, the turns, and the dives. Emily reminded herself to stay calm, focused, and confident. Every movement in the cockpit was a reflection of the preparation she had poured into this day. As the engines roared to life, Emily felt the full power of the HX-9 beneath her. The vibrations ran through the cockpit, a tangible reminder of the responsibility she held. She eased the jet forward, carefully aligning it with the runway. Her hands moved instinctively over the controls, responding to every slight adjustment needed. With a steady push of the throttle, the HX-9 accelerated down the runway, gaining speed with a thrilling force. The ground seemed to fall away beneath her as she lifted off, breaking free into the open sky. Emily felt an overwhelming sense of freedom. The sky stretched endlessly before her, and for the first time, she fully understood the exhilaration that had drawn her to flying as a child. She executed the maneuvers she had practiced thousands of times in simulators with precision and grace. The jet responded effortlessly, turning and banking as if it were an extension of her own body. She felt a sense of connection with the aircraft that she had never experienced before, a harmony born of skill, trust, and dedication. The first hour of flight was focused on mastering control and demonstrating the capabilities of the HX-9. Emily ran through takeoff, basic maneuvers, and emergency drills with flawless execution. Every action was deliberate and precise, reflecting the months of preparation she had invested. As she performed high-speed turns and sudden dives, she felt her confidence grow. This was not just a test of the jet's capabilities. It was a test of her own mastery, her ability to remain calm and effective under pressure. After completing the initial drills, Emily moved on to more advanced maneuvers. She simulated complex combat scenarios, practicing evasive actions and high-speed turns. Each maneuver demanded focus, skill, and rapid decision-making. Emily had trained for these moments, and now she was living them in reality. The adrenaline coursing through her veins was exhilarating, yet she maintained perfect control, proving to herself and anyone watching that she was more than capable of handling the HX-9 in any situation. While in the air, Emily also tested the jet systems under challenging conditions. She simulated engine malfunctions, sudden weather changes, and emergency landings. Each scenario was met with calm, calculated responses. She adjusted controls precisely, communicated efficiently with base control, and executed emergency procedures flawlessly. Every move demonstrated not only her technical expertise, but also her mental strength and composure under pressure. Emily had prepared for this moment her entire life, and now she was proving that preparation, skill, and determination could overcome any challenge. As Emily performed these maneuvers, the base below watched in awe. Officers, pilots, and even the general observed her flight, impressed by her precision, control, and confidence. Those who had once doubted her now saw undeniable evidence of her talent. The skepticism and bias that had once stood in her way were replaced by admiration and respect. Emily's flight became more than just a personal achievement. It became a symbol of excellence, courage, and perseverance for everyone watching. After completing the advanced maneuvers, Emily began a series of complex simulations that required quick thinking and adaptability. She practiced rapid altitude changes, tight turns, and precise landings, adjusting to each scenario with skill and grace. The HX-9 responded flawlessly, reflecting the harmony between pilot and aircraft. Emily felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that her months of rigorous training had prepared her for every challenge she faced in the air. Landing the HX-9 was the final test of the flight, requiring focus, precision, and calm nerves. Emily approached the runway with confidence, carefully adjusting her speed and angle. The jet responded perfectly to her commands, and she touched down smoothly, bringing the aircraft to a stop with expert control. The roar of the engines subsided, replaced by the quiet hum of the base. Emily had completed her first full flight in the HX-9, and she had done so flawlessly. As she climbed out of the cockpit, Emily was met with applause, nods of respect, and congratulatory remarks from her colleagues and the general himself. The moment was more than a personal victory. It was a recognition of her journey, her dedication, and her unwavering determination. She had faced rejection, bias, and doubt, yet she had persevered. The success of this flight was proof that talent, preparation, and courage could overcome even the most entrenched obstacles. Emily's achievement quickly became an inspiration throughout the base and beyond. Young pilots, particularly women, looked to her story as a symbol of what could be accomplished through hard work, dedication, and belief in oneself. Her journey demonstrated that barriers could be broken, traditions could be challenged, and dreams could be realized with persistence and skill. Emily had become more than a pilot. She had become a role model, showing that excellence and determination could redefine expectations. In the days following her first flight, Emily continued to demonstrate her abilities, performing additional maneuvers and tests in the HX-9. Each flight was a testament to her skill, preparation, and courage. Officers who had once doubted her approached with respect, acknowledging her talent and perseverance. The story of Emily Carter spread, inspiring countless others to pursue their dreams, no matter the obstacles or biases they faced. Reflecting on her journey, Emily understood that the true victory was not just in flying the HX-9. It was in the process, the discipline, the determination, and the resilience she had developed along the way. Every challenge, every rejection, and every long hour of training had shaped her into a pilot capable of extraordinary achievement. She had proven that persistence, skill, and belief in oneself could overcome even the most difficult barriers. Emily also took time to mentor other pilots, sharing her experiences and lessons learned. She emphasized the importance of preparation, patience, and courage, encouraging them to pursue their goals relentlessly. Her story became a living example of what could be achieved when talent and determination were combined with hard work and perseverance. Those who trained with her gained not only technical knowledge, but also inspiration and confidence to chase their own dreams. As Emily looked to the sky during her subsequent flights, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The HX-9 was more than a jet. It was a symbol of her journey, her achievements, and her courage. She realized that the greatest victories were not measured by accolades alone, but by the ability to rise above challenges, break barriers, and inspire others. Flying the HX-9 was the pinnacle of her dream, but the lessons, growth, and impact of her journey were equally significant. By the end of this chapter of her life, Emily had achieved everything she had worked toward and more. She had proven herself not only to the officers and authorities who had doubted her, but also to herself. Her flight was a culmination of years of preparation, training, and unwavering determination. Emily Carter's journey became a story of triumph over adversity, inspiring countless individuals to believe in their own abilities, persevere through challenges, and chase their dreams without hesitation. The story concluded with Emily standing on the base, gazing at the horizon, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. She felt pride, satisfaction, and a deep sense of purpose. The sky was no longer a distant dream. It was her domain, a symbol of what could be achieved with courage, skill, and determination. Emily Carter's story was a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of preparation, and the courage to defy expectations. It was a story that would inspire generations of pilots and dreamers for years to come.